Okay, are we ready to girl boss? Welcome to Wow If True, the podcast of your wildest memes.
We are actively reworking our intro. In the meantime, we talk about internet culture, we talk about memes, we talk about the intersection of internet culture, memes, and startups, and also other things like Death Steal. This is the podcast you're listening to. Get fucking ready. We are trying to establish more authority, as I have very authoritatively done with this introduction, and we did not have time to fully redo our intro yet. This is a horrible introduction for anyone getting on board. Anyway, I'm your guy adrift in this bad introduction, Isabel.
I'm Amanda. I don't know how I feel about this, especially since this is the first episode where we are having somebody who is not me edit it, so I am so sorry, Allison. And as the line goes that we may or may not cut in future intros, anyone could be famous on the internet, so why not us?
I think this is what Allison deserves. It's a real trial by fire. So I should have said, I'm your guy who might need to be in a meeting in 4 minutes. But it's fine. It's not that time yet. We can record this whole podcast before then, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
For sure. That's how time works.
Yeah, we're gonna record this 40-minute podcast in the next 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's how the content works.
You know, that's how content creation works. And speaking of content creation...
Isabel, I'm having an existential crisis, which honestly is not new because I feel like...
Yeah, that's not news.
Not news, but I will say that last week in the TechCrunch Slack, I did 2 separate times pop into the water cooler channel like, guys, help, I am having an existential crisis.
Did they help with your existential crisis, or did they not, and that's why we're still here today?
Well... One person linked me to an article that he wrote in, 2016 about the same thing I was having an existential crisis about. And then they said that having an existential crisis on TechCrunch.com is a rite of passage. So maybe I need to have an existential crisis on TechCrunch.com soon. But right now I'm having an existential crisis on Wow If True, the podcast of your wildest memes. Anyway, so here's one of the news stories that made me have an existential crisis, and I want to unpack it with you.
Okay, let's go. I'm very excited to hear about what you're having an existential crisis about. Now, will this give me an existential crisis? Because I have to go to a meeting in 3 minutes.
Okay, to be clear, this meeting, we're not sure if you have to be in or not, but it would be very girl boss of you.
Don't explain the bit.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm not explaining the bit. But so, basically, the deal is... Sam Rizer, who is a venture capitalist for Slow Ventures, is giving Marina Moglico $1.7 million in exchange for 5% of her creator earnings for 30 years.
Love how you said that like I know who either of these people are, but that sounds like a lot of money. So basically what you're saying here is that a venture capitalist is giving someone in the creator economy a bunch of money in return for...
Yeah, also let's do the math
right?
real quick, because in order to get a full return on their investment, what would the valuation be here? Damn, okay.
You're making me do math? You're making me do math on our podcast?
1.7 million is 5% of what? How do you do that math?
Damn, why? I went to law school so I wouldn't have to do math, Amanda.
I feel like you probably have to do math on the LSAT. Okay, 1.7 million times...
No, you don't have to do math on the LSAT. They don't make you do math on the LSAT. Okay, actually, as an aside, the whole bit among law students is that we go to law school because we can't do math, because if we did math, we would be in business school. Fun little lawyer joke for you. But okay, so this is maybe not good podcasting, so we should cut it. But the interesting thing here is that you actually have to account for both inflation and just how much monetary value $20 million is in the next 10 to 30 years. So really to get a return on investment here, I feel like it's going to be difficult, but I'm assuming that the venture capitalists have guys who can do math other than me who cannot do math and was simply asked to do math on my podcast.
I Googled a percentage calculator and I still just forgot what kind of math I was supposed to be doing. I can't podcast and math at the same time. I'm stressed. We're giving Allison a very bad first episode to edit.
No, this is fine. See, this is a real trial by fire, and if it wasn't mentioned before, we have a new editor. It's Allison, at least for this episode. If she hates us after we gave her such a bad raw cut and says, I'm not doing this again, we would understand.
Yeah, for sure. But so, basically, the quote from this venture capitalist, Sam Rizer, who used to be a Facebook executive, says, "We say, you're a young creator. Maybe you have a couple of YouTube channels. You have a following. We will buy 5% of everything you do for the next 10 to 30 years. Like, this deal with Marina Moglico is one of several deals that they want to make. They have $20 million set aside for this, and they gave Marina Moglico $1.7 million. So they could make this same deal, like, 10 more times or more. Math. 1.7 times 10 is, like, oh no, they could do it, like, 15 more times.
Oh my god. Like, I feel like all this is showing is that neither of us really know how to do math.
This is why we are not on a finance podcast. I guested on a finance podcast once and talked about OnlyFans, which tells you a lot about where my expertise on the internet lies. But the thing is, my hot take here is hate the idea of venture capital and creativity colliding. However, this really isn't a bad deal.
To counter that, just to play devil's advocate.
I mean, I could be convinced this is a bad deal.
Well, like, I mean, no, like, I love that he had to say, it's definitely not indentured servitude. Which is like, that's rough.
What does it mean when, in response to a deal you made, you have to clarify, it's not indentured servitude? Another quote says, Moglico is free to do whatever she wants with the money, which she received right away, she told Vice. This is the Silicon Valley approach to investing in people, Moglico said. So part of the deal is, like, if she decides I'm gonna go become a lawyer, then, like, it's only her creator-related earnings that they own.
Which is, like, an interesting concept because, like, what do you qualify as creator-related earnings? I also think an interesting thing here is actually, I don't think he's wrong about this. I was playing devil's advocate, but frankly, when you are investing in a startup, you are investing in the guys building the startup and that they have a good idea.
Yeah.
And, like, people have become brands in a way that I think people were not brands like 30 years ago. I'm thinking about that one BDG video.
Oh.
You know, Hugh
Oh,
Brandity.
yeah, of course, Hugh Brandity, a classic.
Yeah, you know, and his brand Cocoon. Yeah. Like, and like that's satire, but it's also like kind of true. I was talking with like one of my cousins actually a couple years ago, and it's something that I still remember because she is a consultant and she was talking about how like, yeah, you have to consider yourself and your brand and like what value you're bringing to stuff. Like in a lot of ways, like within like the corporate world, you're not thinking about yourself as like a person, you're thinking about yourself as like, what are you bringing to bring value? And the creator economy is essentially like a really just chaotic version of that, I think, at this point.
Speaking of the corporate world, do you have your meeting?
Oh, bro, you know, the meeting, it's going to be happening. I got to get to this meeting. We got to really wrap this up soon.
Stop doing the bit. Oh, God,
No, dude, I got to get to this meeting. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, fine.
Have you noticed that, like, I always pick, like, one bit to do all of our episodes?
I like it, but I have two things to say. First off, we are actually in the process of rebranding the podcast a little bit, and I do think it is very difficult to brand ourselves for the purpose of the podcast, in that we're trying to be like, okay, guys, we're not just some guys, we're some guys that know what they're talking about. And I can't figure out an adjective to describe me, because we called Isabel a terminally online person who passed the bar but has not yet been approved by the bar through a bureaucratic process.
Hey, you want to hear something horrible about this?
Yeah.
I still haven't sent my application in, and it's been like a month.
Well, anyway, and then for me...
You're just like, yeah, sounds about right.
I'm just like, all right, Isabel, send in your application to the bar. But for me, we are going between Twitter verified tech journalist and guilty blue check, because I don't want people to think that I actually care about being verified. But let's be real, I do. I need the external validation, or literally external verification.
Has being Twitter verified like helped you out like a lot? Or is it just kind of nice?
I think people take me more seriously, and I think it helps when I'm trying to find sources for stories and I just tweet random people.
Okay, yeah, I could see how that would work. You know, okay, so actually I have a related question, I think.
Yes.
And that's, if Slow Ventures wanted to invest in us, would you say yes? Like, assume you're making the sole decision for us and I'm not having any input, because I think this is kind of an interesting question. Like, do you think you'd say yes?
So, this also reminds me, this might be too meta, but in our trial of Allison becoming our editor, in addition to cash money, we were offering equity in the podcast. But the thing is, our equity right now is worth like no money.
We got like $4. We got like $4 in the bank. We have a lot of talent. We have a lot of degrees. We have a lot of memes and a Discord. We have very little money.
Yeah, so then a friend of mine as a joke was like, I want equity in your podcast. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, the equity doesn't exist. I don't know. But honestly, I think if somebody offered me $1.7 million right now for 5% of all creator-related earnings that I personally make, including WoW if True, I would take the deal. But the thing is also, like, I am not making the same amount of money that Marina Moglico is.
I'm making like at least $4 or $5 as a lawyer, and I think I would also take the deal.
Yeah.
Because like $1.7 million, that's like enough money where I think I could kickstart a creative career without having to worry too much, which would be very valuable. And the fact that the money comes with no strings attached. So maybe this isn't actually indentured servitude, but it is kind of weird. It's kind of a weird deal.
Part of it is also that they say Slow Ventures and its fellow investors don't start taking back a percentage unless she's making good money in the range of, quote, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Noting that the number will adjust with inflation as well. Quote, we don't want to make this a burden to people who can't afford it. So if you do the math, $1.7 million over 30 years, I did do this math in advance and I was able to do the math, is about $56,000 a year, which is like lower than the will only take money if you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars figure. But like, that's an attainable amount of money for someone of that stature to make per year.
Yeah, what I will say here is I think we're running into the issue of like, if you have money, it's a lot easier to make money.
Oh, for sure.
Like, you know, the thing is that if you have like money to throw around for investments, it's just far easier to get a return on investment because you started with a larger sum. This is turning into a finance podcast. Let's bring it back to memes.
Oh, so one more memey thing that this just piece of information that I just want to share because I think it's really funny and I have nowhere else to share it. And
of course,
I don't feel bad about sharing it because it was public information. But so Sam Lesson's wife is Jessica Lesson, who is the editor-in-chief of The Information, which is a tech publication. And because Sam Lesson used to be a high up in Facebook, now Meta, we'll talk about that more later, the Lesson family is buddies with the Zuckerbergs. And there was one point a couple months ago where Jessica Lesson tried tweeting a link to an article, but she accidentally tweeted a link to a Google spreadsheet that was anyone with link can view, and it was a spreadsheet of the names of her children and the names of Mark Zuckerberg's children and their sizes in puffer jackets for a skiing trip that they were going on together.
I am dying to know, what were their puffer jacket sizes?
I mean, I think that their kids are, like, pretty young, so it was mostly, like, smalls and extra smalls, and it was, like, what color puffer jackets they wanted.
That's actually kind of cute. Like, I feel like my conspiracy brain is saying that this was, like, a calculated attempt to humanize rich people. But it was probably just an accident.
I mean, if anything, it raises the question of, is it ethical to be the editor-in-chief of a tech publication when you're, like, going on holiday with the Zuckerberg-Chan family? Or is it the Chan-Zuckerberg family? I don't know the exact hyphenation that they went with.
I feel like it should be Chan-Zuckerberg when we talk about it, even if it's not accurate, just because I don't want to put Zuckerberg
Yeah,
first.
Also because that'd be more girl boss.
It would be more girl boss, and you know that this podcast is all about girl bossing. That's our new brand, right? Like, girl bossing.
Our new brand is that we're girl bosses who talk about finance and then also talk about the time when the other girl boss tweeted a link of her children's puffer jacket sizes.
I feel like we're going downhill with this podcast. Like, I think this rebrand is really, like, actually hurting us and not helping us here.
But okay, to be really straightforward about this, we're not here to talk about finance. We're here to talk about, like, what does it mean for creators to be invested in, like, startups? Like, are we okay with this? So while we are talking about Facebook and the ski trip that the Chan Zuckerbergs went on with the Lessons.
Hey, how good do you think their kids are at skiing? I feel like pretty good, right? Like, they're rich. I feel like rich people are good at skiing.
I feel like if you're rich, then you're inherently good at skiing. I'm not saying that I'm rich, but have I ever told my skiing story on the pod?
You have not told your skiing story on the pod or to me.
Oh, so I'll try to keep this brief, but basically I went skiing when I was like 8, the only time I have been skiing, and I was an overachieving child, as you can see by me now being an adult tryhard. And I was doing fine on the bunny slope, wanted to try the intermediate slope, somehow got away from my parents, and they just kind of let me do this. I don't know where they were or what happened, but basically went off the intermediate slope, skied into a shed, and was like on, like, laying down in the snow with, like, blood dripping down my forehead like Harry Potter. And
that's a lot.
The paramedic was like, "What's 2 + 2?" And I was like, "Ask me something harder."
Oh, that's the funniest. Wow, you sound insufferable. Like, as a child, I'm so fucking sorry.
I know, I'm so annoying. But you know what's even...
I'm glad you're okay.
But what's even more annoying than me is Mark Zuckerberg. So we're going to talk about corporate cringe, the grand unified theory of corporate cringe. By this, I mean that I wrote, like, 6 pages of notes about corporate cringe, and you just kind of let me do that.
Yeah, I was kind of just like, look, I had a really long weekend. Like, okay, do you want to hear about my weekend?
I just know you went to the Korean spa.
I did go to the Korean spa. No, I was looking at apartments all of Saturday, so, like, you know, horrifying experience overall. Just kidding, it was fine. I had work to do, because lawyers work on the weekend.
Oh, yeah, your meeting's in, like, 3 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, shit, I gotta get to that meeting. Yo, we gotta wrap this up. And then on Sunday, I was at the Korean spa for like all day with my high school friends. And it's actually really funny because the Korean spa runs a shuttle from the Dunkin' Donuts in Koreatown in New York to Palisades Park in New Jersey.
That's so funny.
Just like they run it like regular. And then the Korean spa itself is like everybody is naked in like the wet parts. You know, there's the wet zone and the dry zone.
Oh, yeah.
In the dry zone, it's mixed gender and clothes are required. In the wet zone, it's naked time. But there was a very interesting demographic mix where you had like old Korean ladies who did not give a shit about being naked in like the locker rooms and stuff and were just like full nudity going for it. All the white people, it was like 50% people who were there as like, oh, this is a weird cultural thing to do. And the other 50%, Russians.
Interesting.
And then the rest of like everyone else, which was just like a bunch of random Asian people. I went with a bunch of random Asian people, by the way.
You are random Asian people.
I am random Asian girl, number 17 within the script. Yeah. So that's what I did with my day. And the place honestly reminded me a lot of Spirited Away, like the bathhouse there, in just how weird it was.
I did go to a Japanese onsen one time.
Mm-hmm.
It was chill. I feel like I actually, like, it was at a hostel in a not very touristy part of Japan. Mm-hmm. So I was one of the only white people, which I think made it feel less weird because it was very normal for all of them. And I was just like, I'm naked with a bunch of old Japanese ladies.
Yeah, you know, regular experience.
Yeah.
You know, what an experience we should all endeavor to have.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not talking shit about this. I used to go to the Korean spa in Korea where they just call it the spa.
What if they called it the Korean spa in Korea?
I would like to go to the Korean spa in Korea because I think that would be a really recursive experience for me. But yeah, no, that was like a normal thing to do. So it was actually just weird for me seeing white people there and also being in New Jersey with my friends. Yeah,
I feel like that probably would be really weird when it's like, this is your culture and then people are just being weird. And I feel like it's just I think American culture is being weird about nudity. And that's...
Yeah, no, Americans are super weird about nudity. Yeah. Like, weirder than they need to be. Like, it's fine. Sometimes people are naked. It's just bodies. Related to that, okay, this is maybe not good content, but I think it's an interesting question. Do you need to take a shower before you go to the spa? If you're going to take a shower there? Because I wasn't sure. Because I wouldn't do that if I was in Korea. I would just go to the spa and take a shower there before getting in the bathtubs.
I think it's okay to shower in their showers before you get into the bathtubs. I would say you have to shower before you get into the bathtub, but...
Yeah, you definitely have to shower before the tub, but, like, do you have to shower at home before? I had, like, a real, like, 20-minute crisis about this on Sunday morning.
I don't think it makes sense to take a shower before the bath.
Right? Like, that's what I was thinking. But, like, also, like, what if they're expecting me to take... And what if my friends had all taken showers before the shower, before the bath? Then I'm just unwashed.
I think that you should behave how you would behave in Korea, and if people give you shit for it, be like, I'm sorry, in Korea we call this the spa.
Damn, fuck, you're right. That's what I should have done. Anyway, I took a shower.
Yeah, here,
so I took, like,
I'm teaching you how to behave in spaces that are relevant to your culture and not mine.
Yeah, we are going to get canceled for being so problematic and also talking about the Korean spa for 10 minutes.
Anyway. 10 minutes. You have to go to that meeting.
Oh, shit. No, the meeting, it's going to be happening at any moment now. Like this big meeting that I need to get to.
Well, speaking of meetings, you know what company is enabling you to have meetings in the metaverse?
No, tell me which company.
Meta, which was previously known as Facebook. So just to be completely honest with you, after I watched the keynote where Mark Zuckerberg explained the metaverse and rebranded Facebook to Meta, I literally just went outside and just sat in silence for half an hour.
Okay.
I was just very freaked out about is it gonna be normal to see people not wearing VR headsets in the future? But I do think my general take on this is Facebook is trying to be you're gonna do everything in the metaverse. But I think I don't think people actually want that. I do think that there is a certain point where people are would love to touch grass. When I came in from sitting outside and seeing a random person walk by on the street and just thinking about how beautiful it was to see another human just walking on the street and just, having a normal one, I did have an email from somebody who was a marketing professor who studies cringe in marketing, because she was offering herself as a source to talk about the Facebook rebrand. Since then, I've just been thinking about corporate cringe.
I feel like we need to back up 1 second, though. What is the metaverse? Because not everyone watched the Facebook press release and then sat outside for half an hour.
So basically, Facebook rebranded itself as Meta because it wants to be a metaverse company. And the metaverse basically refers to any kind of additional layer to normal life where it's I think when Facebook talks about the metaverse, they specifically think it means virtual reality, whereas other companies like Niantic, which is the company that makes Pokemon Go, they also gave a whole presentation last week about how they want their metaverse to be augmented reality, which is what Pokemon Go is, where how you experience the game depends on your physical presence in there's a Pokestop at the Ethiopian restaurant down the street from me. And you can only experience that in that one specific place. But virtual reality is you put on a headset. Speaking of which, plug for our Patreon that we have a Patreon, patreon.com/wowwithtrue, and we post some really silly stuff on there. For example, because I'm a very fancy tech journalist, I was sent a Oculus Quest 2 from Meta, which is their virtual reality device, and I am going to unbox it on Patreon because I think unboxing videos are a great genre of content and very funny.
So how many dollars should a venture capitalist give you for your unboxing videos?
If venture capitalists are random listeners to the podcast that think that we are entertaining, I think that they should give us the price of a subscription to see that content on Patreon, which right now is about $2 to $6.
Get in while the going's good. Yeah, okay. I think my question about the metaverse is how does that differ from Second Life or World of Warcraft or VR metaverse versus augmented reality metaverse? Because I think there's an argument that you could make that people having their AirPods in constantly, that's the metaverse. We're already
No,
here.
I mean, I think that is one of the big questions here, in that Facebook's rebrand asserts the idea that they are creating the metaverse because they are Meta. So they created the metaverse. But
oh wow, so they're trying to take ownership over the whole concept.
But I think you're totally right that World of Warcraft is the metaverse, Fortnite is the metaverse, Second Life is the metaverse.
The metaverse sounds like something that comes out of a bad science fiction novel, which kind of tracks for 2021.
Oh yeah, for sure. For example, An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green.
Oh my god. That's cringe. Now we can go back to talking about cringe because you brought up Hank Green.
I love Hank Green, which is very cringe of me.
That's very cringe of you, and it's not Pog at all.
Yeah. So literally I pitched this to my editor and she was like, I don't know what you're talking about, so I'm just gonna tell you about it instead.
I love to get the TechCrunch cast-offs.
For sure. So corporate cringe is basically the sensation of when a corporation posts something on social media or makes a commercial and you're just why did they do that? So we're thinking about this because the whole metaverse presentation was like pretty cringe. Like it was like Mark Zuckerberg just being cringe. Probably the best example of corporate cringe is the Kendall Jenner Pepsi fiasco, where in 2017 they ran a commercial where people were at what was ostensibly a BLM protest, and Kendall Jenner gave a smiling cop some Pepsi as a show of, like, unity.
That's rough.
But then people were like, hey, why are we glorifying cops here? And why is Kendall Jenner just out here giving cops Pepsi when we're supposed to be talking about, like, Black Lives Matter?
But is that even cringe, or is that just, like, tone deaf?
I think both. But anyway, that's a more extreme example, but I think the genre of corporate cringe I want to discuss today is when brands break the social contract of what you imagine the relationship between a consumer and a corporate social media account to be. So one example of this, which is why I bring up the Meta rebrand, is that every other company was like, okay, we're going to capitalize on this moment by being like, haha, we still have the same name. That's funny because isn't it wild that Facebook changed their name? And one of these was Wendy's changed their name on Twitter to Meat.
Okay. Sorry, MEAT.
Yes, which is an anagram of Meta.
That's so dumb.
Yeah.
That's so dumb. This is nothing.
So they posted changing our name to Meat. And then Meta responded and said, nice to, capital letters, meet you, Wendy's. And then Wendy's responded to Meta and said, never, Meta, face we couldn't book.
That's, what does that mean?
But then, like, chuggy people, use the word chuggy.
Stop saying chuggy. Okay, part of a rebrand. You gotta stop saying chuggy. You gotta fucking stop doing it. Listen, I will stop talking about Destiel if you stop saying chuggy.
I think people like the Destiel content, though, which means that I can keep saying chuggy. But anyway.
Do they like the chuggy content? I don't like the chuggy content. Like, I know that this is an element of my own creation. This is like a demon that I did, like, raise from hell by telling you about, like, the concept of chuggy, but I was doing it as a bit. I wasn't doing it for you to say it, like, every 10th word.
But anyway, I do think that, like, I do think that some chuggy people would screenshot that interaction and be like, haha, so funny, so relatable, love Wendy's, love spicy chicken nuggets.
I was gonna say people are smart enough about that now, but people aren't smart enough about that. People post minions on Facebook.
Yeah, and I mean, Wendy's is really trying to create a sense of community with their social media presence by posting things like changing our name to Meat. Wendy's has a Discord.
Oh, we gotta join the Wendy's Discord. Why isn't this episode not about us joining the Wendy's Discord?
Should we do it right now?
No, we shouldn't do it right now. I have to go to a meeting.
Okay, I really thought about joining the Discord for research before this episode, but then I didn't want to join the Wendy's Discord, but now I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it right now.
Okay. Well, while you're doing that, like, I think Wendy's actually, for example, has made kind of a brand. It's a brand making a brand, but, like, it's made, like, sort of a name for itself, like, within, like, the branding space where it does a lot of shit like this. Like, it really likes to reference other cultural. Oh, you're making such a face. What's going on in a Wendy's Discord? Yo, the face you just made, I've never seen you make that face.
Guess how many people are in the Wendy's Discord?
10,000.
More.
50,000.
A little bit less.
40,000?
48,491.
Oh my god.
Why are there so many people in the Wendy's Discord?
Okay, give us the deets. What are the channels in the Wendy's Discord?
So, there's a welcome channel. They did a Twitch stream. They have an announcement, and the announcement was about the Wendy's Twitch stream, the icon of which is the girl Wendy wearing gamer headphones. There's
That's
rules.
A lot. Hey, we're talking about how all this shit is cringe, but I think a lot of it's purposely cringe in the way where it's engineered to make us talk about it.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're doing this now, yeah.
And I'm also thinking about, like, the fucking KFC does a ton of stuff like this, right? Like, KFC, like, made, like, a chicken warmer computer situation. It's made, like, I believe that was the one that made the dating app. Not the dating app, the dating sim. And also, like, the like, romance holiday short thing.
I'm sorry, but I just want to read you rule number 3 of the Wendy's Discord community rules.
I'm scared, tell me.
Wendy's loves spicy jokes just as much as the next person, but all content should be safe for work. Any not safe for work content / behavior will be promptly deleted at the mod's discretion.
That phrasing. You know that went through like 15 rounds with like the marketing team.
Wendy's loves spicy jokes as much as the next person.
I think that should be our rebrand. I don't know if I have more to say about this, but I do want you to keep looking at it.
The general hangout room is called the dining room with a fire emoji, and people are just kind of saying, hello, hello, hello.
Is anyone actually talking? Or do you think everybody joined for the same reasons you did, which is to see what's going on in the Wendy's Discord?
I'm so confused. They're talking about an octopus. Somebody said, you okay over there? And then somebody said, are any of us okay? And then somebody else said, true. We are a group of random people in a Wendy's Discord.
So, like, they're self-aware about the fact that they're in a Wendy's Discord.
Like, I feel like they're in it because they think it's funny. But well, is it funny, though? Because
we joined it because we thought it'd be funny.
Well, we joined it because we thought it would be funny to make fun of it on our podcast. So joke's on us, because we have a podcast.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we are the real losers here because we have a podcast. But maybe they joined, too, because they think it's funny and want to talk about it with their friends who are not in Discord. I guess what I'm saying is that, like, I feel like the idea of, like, what's, like, ironic, post-ironic, and genuine has become very enmeshed together in 2021.
Yeah.
You're making such a face at this. All right.
Today at 5:55 p.m., somebody made fan art of Wendy from Wendy's, but it looks like she has, like, an elf face, like some kind of mythical creature that I can't quite put my finger on because I haven't played as much D&D as you have. Or maybe it's just a really bad drawing, but I think she's supposed to be...
Maybe it's just a bad drawing of Wendy. Anyway, what else were you going to tell me about before I sidetracked you?
I don't know. I can't think about anything besides the Wendy's Discord. But anyway, I just feel like it's a really weird way of making community. And just some other examples real quick. What do TikTok and the Empire State Building have in common?
Both big in New York.
That's a good one. They probably have a lot of They have a lot in common, but both of them are standing Taylor Swift on Twitter.
Okay, that's not what I would have expected.
Yeah, so you know how the Empire State Building has, like, different colors of lights?
Mm-hmm.
So apparently on November 10th, which was, I believe, 2 days before Red Taylor's version was released, the Empire State Building, a verified account on Twitter, turned all of its lights red and then tweeted eyes emoji at Taylor Swift 13, hashtag Red Taylor's version. And then TikTok's display name on Twitter right now is TikTok parentheses Taylor's version.
See, I feel like this is like a whole like thing where every single account that has a brand, or like every single brand that has an account anywhere, feels like they need to capitalize on anything that happens. Which I guess is the same thing that like Meet, Meta, Wendy's, Facebook.
Do you want to talk about another kind of meat?
I'm scared to. Hey, I don't know if I love this direction our rebrand is going in. Like, I'm not sure how to feel about this one, but you know what? Sure, I made you go into Wendy's Discord. Fuck it, sure.
I want to talk about the Steakums Twitter. Are you familiar?
Oh my
God. Are you familiar with the Steakums Twitter?
I have not. I have never heard the phrase Steakums Twitter before you brought it into my life.
So Steakums is a company that sells frozen, thinly sliced meats.
Okay.
They're called Steakums.
It's kind of a meat-heavy episode today, huh?
Yeah, this is a very meaty episode. Very, very meta and very meaty.
Sucks. All right, okay, tell me about Steakums.
Okay, so I just want to introduce you to the brand by reading you my personal favorite Steakums tweet.
Okay.
Anti-marketing is when a brand makes fun of itself for marketing in a self-aware way, and meta-advertising is when a brand makes an ad about an ad, but I don't know what it's called when a brand markets itself by telling consumers about its own anti-marketing meta-advertising strategy.
That's a lot. That's
Steakums basically on Twitter just tweets about how it's weird that they're running the Twitter for Steakums and what that means in terms of like capitalism and like life. Like they also wrote, I don't know if I should make you read these just for funsies.
I'll read it. I'll read this one. Why are so many young people flocking to brands on social media for love, guidance, and attention? I'll tell you why. They're isolated from real communities, working service jobs they hate while barely making ends meet. Is it spelled MEAT here? Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, I'll finish it.
I didn't even realize that when I copy-pasted it.
And are living with unchecked personal/mental health problems. Okay, the inclusion of meat spelled MEAT here really makes it. You know what I think this is actually doing, though?
What?
I think this is playing into like the fantasy of the fact that there is some sort of corporate intern who hates the job that they're doing, posting these, therefore humanizing the brand.
But I think also there's kind of like an adage on Twitter of like when a brand fucks up, somebody says, ha ha, like bad day for the intern. I don't know. Like people are always like, there's this idea that social media interns are running social media accounts. And it's like, no, the social media intern at Wendy's is probably like making coffee and like proofreading drafts of tweets that they didn't write.
The idea that there's a job that is proofreading drafts of tweets is so aggressively late stage capitalism.
Oh, I've written tweets for work before.
I don't know. It's just a lot. But yeah, no, I'm looking at your notes going forward, and like you're right, I think, about the Denny's Tumblr being one of the first to do this, because I remember seeing the Denny's Tumblr like years ago doing this, and everything else copying that style of haha jokes. We're being so random. We are part of this, but also we're a brand, LOL.
Yeah, and what do you remember from the Denny's Tumblr? Because I feel like I just kind of remember them being like, we're Denny's, we're on Tumblr, and then they would just kind of like engage in like fandom discourse.
They would be so regular on Tumblr, and by that I mean unhinged, because it was Tumblr and this was a few years ago. And I think the whole bit was that it's literally the Denny's Tumblr. Except, so people will do that on Tumblr, where I think there was a guy who was pretending to be Aquafresh, but he was just some guy.
No, but this really was like...
But this was Denny's, yeah.
No, at one point I like found out who the person that ran Denny's Tumblr was because I wanted to ask them to be on the podcast, and I just kind of like didn't do that because I forgot. But like, I did find the person's LinkedIn who ran the Denny's Tumblr.
See, what does all of this mean?
I mean, I think in the case of the Denny's Tumblr, it seemed that this was genuinely just somebody who was like a young 20-something who used Tumblr and happened to be working in marketing for Denny's and was like, hey, I think that it would be really funny if we had a Denny's Tumblr. But the thing is that with both Denny's and Steakums, the marketing works. Like, people will post on Twitter like, oh, I bought Steakums at the grocery store today just because I think the Twitter is funny. But then on Twitter, Steakums is just saying like, all brands exist on a spectrum, yet they all still have a bottom line. Some have a more positive impact, others not so much. But no brand itself can be quote-unquote woke due to an inherent drive for growth and survival. This includes every industry from media to restaurants and beyond.
But to tie this back to our original thing, what's the difference between Steakums trying to be weird and relatable and an influencer trying to be weird and relatable?
Well, I think part of why these brand tactics work relates to the creator economy, in that the reason why influencers are a thing and can make money being influencers isn't because you don't get money for having 1 million followers, but you get money because Olay wants you to talk about their shampoo. And then people are more likely to buy it because they saw their favorite influencer be like, this shampoo is good, than because they saw a commercial. Because people know that commercials are inherently ads and that there's no, like, personal backing to it. But if somebody says, no, but actually this is good, then you'll buy it. And then I think that isn't too far away from brands pretending to be people on social media. Like, ads don't work anymore, but they also do. Like, ads do work.
Well, the thing is that I think what people have seen and like what has been studied, what has been studied in advertising, just, shoot me, is that younger generations are really resistant to traditional advertising, but are super influenced by like native or like weird forms of advertising that people don't have defenses towards. Like, I think we're just in the past couple of years and like now seeing like pushback to like affiliate marketing or like people like promoting products and influencers and stuff like that, where people know it's more fake now, I think. But I think it still works. And like, I think I'm coming across as really negative about this, but like, I think people should get paid for making weird content on the internet. or even like really regular content. It's just that the way to get paid for that is just insane right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately I think that the creator economy is a good thing. I think this even relates back to like jobs post-COVID where people don't want to go back to making like $8 an hour at a shitty service job. Or I phrased that weirdly, but I think it's a good thing if people can make a living like weird internet stuff instead of working jobs that pay them very, very little and treat them very, very badly. And I think people are realizing that even when we see that post-COVID, people don't want to go back to like certain service jobs that are objectively treating them badly and not paying them enough for their labor. And in a lot of places, being paid minimum wage and working full-time can't even pay your rent. And people are realizing that. But then meanwhile on the internet, if you make it big enough, which is admittedly a very hard thing to do, like, I think sometimes when we talk about the creator economy, it's like, oh, anybody can just like, anyone could be famous on the internet, which is true, but also it takes work.
And on that note, hey, why don't you donate to our Patreon now? And on that note, it's time for our second Patreon ad of this podcast. You know, actually, I think it is time for the second Patreon ad of this podcast. If you like our content, if you want to join our Discord, go check out our Patreon at patreon.com/wowtrue. We do this because we love it, but also because we're trying to make it on the internet. Like, we've been talking this entire episode about how to make it on the internet and how it's kind of fucked up how you have to make it on the internet. But, like, we are trying to make it on the internet. Anyway, I just want to point out that in this draft that you did write, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And, like, are you good?
Did I say that? Yeah. I think it is really difficult being like, my job is to write about the creator economy. And when I write about a company, it inherently legitimizes it. And I get pitched so many companies all the time. And it's really hard to tell what is something that's actually helping creators and what is people trying to capitalize on the creator economy. Because I think it's just so inarguable that this is something that is a huge moneymaker to the point that, like, it's not really precedented, to my knowledge, to see venture capitalists, like, literally investing in art. And I think even with NFT art, like, sorry for mentioning NFTs, but, like, that's also people showing interest in art who maybe traditionally haven't shown interest in art.
Yeah, but the art's bad.
I think a lot of NFT art is bad. I think some of it is not as bad.
I was looking at like Bored Apes earlier today, and I was like, this sucks.
Again, I feel very ambivalent about NFTs, but there is a very cool NFT art collective called Yatreda that's like YATREDA that does like moving portraits based on like African folklore. It's very cool. But, like, I think it's cool art because it's cool art. It just happens to be an NFT. We're just not going to get into that right now because I don't want to get into that.
That's a whole different episode. We did that episode. I feel like we do need to have a second NFT episode just to be like, hey, so it's been like a year since the last one. It has not been a year. It's fine. Like, I feel like this episode has kind of been a downer compared to most of our episodes, which are so upbeat and about how the internet is a good place, right? How do we turn this around? Quick, we got 5 minutes before my meeting. We gotta turn this around. We gotta turn this car all the way around and away from Steakum's Twitter.
I don't know. I like Steakum's Twitter.
God damn it, they got you.
I know, they got me. Like, I don't think I'm in the market for thinly sliced frozen meats, but if I was, I would probably buy Steakums.
Damn, they got you. That's so funny to me.
I know.
Well, okay, so I need to get to my meeting now. For real. For real. At my day job, which is not part of the creator economy.
Oh no, your meeting's in like 2 minutes now.
Dude, my meeting's in like 1 minute and 30 seconds. I'm watching the clock. My God. Anyway, if you like this episode, tell a friend. Word of mouth is how we grow. And maybe leave us a review on iTunes. Thank you to everyone who's left a review so far, and thank you to all of our Patreon patrons. Shout out to Zoe Stoller, Bray, Andre, Grant, Thea, Ultra Lord from Jimmy Neutron also specifically. Another shout out to Sam Rizer, who made our podcast music. You can find us online at wowtrue.com or on Twitter as @wowtruepod. We are real people there, but we are 2 real people pretending to be 1 real person. It's fine. And Instagram and Facebook as @wowtrue. If you want to throw us a couple of dollars, maybe more than a couple of dollars, maybe help pay Allison, who is going to have just a horrible job editing this, slide right into our Patreon at patreon.com/wowiftrue. If you had your 15 minutes of fame, or know someone who has, slide right into our Twitter DMs. I did say minutes instead of seconds, so we need more famous people now because we're really moving up in the world. Until next time, let's get famous on the internet.